I might start with you, Felicity, and just if we can answer this sort of question and rotate it across you all. Tell us your story of becoming an entrepreneur and what have been some of the milestones along the way?
So starting out, probably quite similar to Harry actually, in the sense of my husband Calvin, he was a specialist in what he was doing. He was extremely good at what he was doing, but he would come home unsatisfied with the way things were done. So the customers were never at the forefront of management's focus. The staff were never at the forefront of their focus. And it was just really frustrating to see him in that position every day. So it got to a point where I just said, look, you need to do this. You don't have to do it on your own. I'll be your business partner. We'll do it together. You look after being great at the technical stuff, and I'll have a crack at doing the administrative side of the business. And so that's why it came about in the first place. And we achieved a number of milestones really quickly. So when we were planning out the business, we planned to fail. We expected that we would fail. So with that in mind, we just threw it 110% to do our absolute best to try and stop ourselves from drowning. And by doing that, we grew our business extremely quickly and succeeded far beyond what our expectations were within such a short period of time, which meant a lot of milestones were ticked over quite quickly. Our first apprentice, we employed at the 6-month mark. And something that I hold as an extremely huge piece of pride these days, that apprentice is still employed with us today. Even after taking a 12-month break to go and enjoy some city life up in Brisbane, he came back to us and is still with us. So the employment factor, that was a really big one for us. Another milestone, I think, and this probably touches on a little bit what I was just talking about with your expectation to fail. The statistics are so scary about how many businesses don't survive the first few years. So the 5-year mark, that was a big one on our calendar. And so when we had our 5th birthday, we certainly celebrated. Not only, did we survive and we were still up and running, but we were kicking goals. We were doing really well. And more recently, becoming the market leader. When I was a part of the Getting Down to Business program, the business was still quite new at that stage, and we considered ourselves at that time the thought leaders. We thought, we're coming up with all these new and interesting ideas. We feel like we're the only ones in our area that are really committed to our clients. And when we started, Calvin's former employers were a bit jaded and a bit sad about that, and spread some vicious rumours in our little small town. And we thought, what do we do? These people are lying about us. Do we hit back? Do we retaliate? And we went, no, we take the high road. We let people work out what they want to work out. And if we keep operating on our key values and keep operating with nothing but integrity, people will work it out. And so when we did eventually become the market leaders, that was massive for us. We went, yep, they worked it out. We have got the biggest market share in this area because we stuck to our values and always operated with integrity.
Impressive, Felicity. Love it. Just that integrity values mindset goes a long way. What about yourself? Over to you, Costa. Your one's a different journey. I mean, you've studied entrepreneurship and effectively become an intrapreneur. Tell us about some of the. I understand you've got into a management position very early in your career. So tell us about some of the milestones on your journey.
Yeah, so I guess, I'll just start from the beginning. So when I was about 15 years old, I started working at Coles. So I was obviously, in high school, and I wanted a part-time job to get a bit of experience. As I started working there, I started moving around all the different areas, in the supermarket, learning as much as I could. I ended up being there for about, I think, 4.5 years off the top of my head. And I started looking into, well, what more can I get out of this space? How can I progress? And I started looking into like their graduate programs and stuff like that. But in 2016, I did the Getting Down to Business program. And through that space, I started meeting, obviously, a lot of other young people. And through that space, I started realizing that what I guess I'm more interested in and more passionate about, I'm not going to get out of, I guess, that organization working there at Coles at the time. Not that it's a bad organization, but just it may not be exactly for me. So I started noticing, I guess, more the negatives. So, for example, I'd see a lot of, managers would be in from 5 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. And I went, if that's the career I kind of pursue, I won't have the time and the flexibility to then pursue the things that I guess I'm more interested in. So I guess that was what's kind of driving me to start looking different avenues. Anyway, then so through Getting Down to Business, I met I got teed up with a mentor called Tony. And that was because my idea when first entering Getting Down to Business was around a deli, a gourmet deli, and he had started up exactly one of that. But Tony's background was in the automotive industry, so he was the CEO of Saab for a period of time, and he'd done a lot of things like that. So we had a lot of that, let's say, like corporate type of background in workspaces. Anyway, so after talking to him and, like I said, and lots of other people that I met through that space, I realized basically two main things. One is I don't know what I want to do, but I know that I want to create as much opportunity for when I do know what I want to do, I'm not stuck or unable to go for it. So basically that's how I started thinking. So I started basically going, okay, well, where's the opening? Where's the opportunity? Also, sorry, just to say, also during that time, I was also on a council advisory committee with Moreland City Council. I already had a bit of exposure to that organization. So I knew of it. I also live in the area. So I started going, okay, well, where's the opportunity? This seems like a good place to work. It seems like, a place that'll give me the opportunity to expand. How can I go about it? So I saw a school crossing supervisor role being advertised. And at this point, I think I was about 18. And I said, okay, well, I'm studying, I'm working at Coles, I'm working at Liquorland, why not? So I basically took that, I applied for that position, I got it. And so what I was doing is wake up in the morning, going to the crossing, then going to uni in between, let's say, the middle of the day for classes, which was pretty lucky it all lined up, then going back to the crossing in the afternoon. And then the evenings and weekends, I was at Coles at Liquorland. So I was doing that for a while. And then progressively another opportunity opened up as a casual parking and road safety officer. So if you guys don't know maybe what that means, you can't guess. That means issuing infringements, a parking officer. So yes, that opportunity opened up. And I kind of went, ooh, that's something different. I've never done that before. But, I took it and went for it. And lucky enough for me, that team sat within the unit of amenities and compliance, which is all local laws, animal management, all that type of stuff. So I started progressing and spending time in that space, learning different aspects of the role and starting to learn what else basically goes on in that unit. Then I had the opportunity through work to do a Cert 4 in government and a Cert 4 in animal control, which then put me in a better position when a full-time role came up. I applied for that, got up. And now when the opportunity came up for a secondment, and I should say it might be misleading, title is Animal Management Officer, but I'm not a manager per se in that sense, just to give some clarity around that. But yeah, so it gave basically me the opportunity to step up into that role, and I've been doing that for the past about 5 months in that role, where I've been learning lots of new things. And to just give a bit of a bit of context in it. So in my role, what a large portion of the role is to essentially investigate dog attacks, things like that, and compile a brief of evidence and prosecute people. So essentially charge them with offences, that type of thing. So the reason I add that is because it is a process, and it is, I guess, straightforward once you get in the hang of it, but it's not very simple. I'll tell you that. Getting things like statements together, everyone's collecting all that and going that path is not too easy on its own. So anyway, through all those, I guess the thing that drives me and what I picked up through meeting all the people that I did, and like I said, my mentor, is I need to create essentially the opportunity, put myself in a position. So when what exactly I want to do, perhaps that be start a business or whatever it is, when I am in a position and I know what I want to do, I'm able to be in a position to do that. So basically that was my motive, and being at Moreland is, it's a very good organization. It's given me lots of opportunities to learn about how to work in the team, how to operate with people, so to build all those skill sets that are, similar things to what Harry, I guess, was talking about in, things like invoices, things like, when there's a dispute in the team, how do you deal with people not getting along in a space? So I guess I understood the value in learning how to work with people for later down the track when an opportunity arises to, for example, start my own business or et cetera, whatever else it is, and to also collect a bit of capital to be able to support myself to do that at the time. So so that's kind of, a bit of a spiel of that, bit of my background.
Thanks, Kostas. I love the creating your own opportunities mindset and the way you've navigated that. Louise, tell us a bit about your journey and what have been some of the milestones along the way.
Yeah, thank you, Warwick, and thank you, Linda, as well. It's lovely to be here chatting to you all. So I think, my journey has been a surprise. Similar to Harry, I never planned it. It's something that unfolded. All good. Something that's unfolded naturally. I was in a position 7 years ago where I was graduating from uni, and I'd been in a position where I, even from high school, was already quite clear on what I wanted to do, that design and graphic design was what I loved, and I planned for that, and I pursued that through high school and through uni. I really enjoyed my course, really enjoyed the work, did well out of it, but found myself at the end of that 3-year degree feeling quite daunted by what was facing me in terms of the prospect of the industry and working in the industry. And probably to summarize it, I just didn't feel ready. I felt, because the design industry is a deeply competitive industry. There's consistently more graduates than jobs for the most part. And I just felt, I just don't feel like I'm ready for this, even though I had, done well through the course. And so I thought, okay, I think what I need to do is get further qualifications. So I enrolled in a master's and deferred that for a year because I needed a bit of a break. I'd gone straight from high school to uni, and figured, okay, I'll do that in 12 months' time. And in the meantime, I'm just going to continue working my retail job and just kind of do my own thing. Never had any thoughts of working for myself. The standard operating procedure, I suppose, as a designer coming out of uni is to work to apply for internships that for the most part you end up working for free. You'd probably do a few of those in the hope of getting into an entry-level job, and you work some pretty serious hours to do all of that. So that's, I guess, what I was heading for, and thought that, if I can have the masters, that'll stand me in good stead. So that's kind of what I had planned, effectively. What I found was that through taking that 12 months off, I really enjoyed working. I enjoyed working more than I enjoyed sort of being a student, even though I do love learning. I consider myself to be a lifelong learner. And I really enjoyed working. And more importantly, now that I had, I suppose, the piece of paper to my name of the degree I'd completed, people who knew me through different social groups and hobbies said, "Oh, so you're a designer now. Can you help us with this thing that we need done?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely, happy to." And that was sort of where I started getting my first inquiries for work. And I came out of the blue, totally didn't expect it. And one of those jobs that I had, one of those jobs that I was asked to work on with one of those clients, I'm still working with to this day, 7 years later. So that's, I guess, a bit of a spoiler alert of the direction this is going. But so I found that I really enjoyed working on those projects independently, and I found that I really enjoyed putting in a hard day's work, and I was balancing that with my other non-design jobs. And so I decided not to take on the masters at the end of the 12 months. I decided to let that go and to continue working my part-time work and have a crack at designing in the other days of the week, essentially. And I think for me, I was fortunate that I had really, really good support from family members who were able to give me, the confidence to give it a go, and also a lot of guidance on, things to do with those basic things around invoices and quotes. I was very fortunate to have that. But I think the next thing that made the biggest difference for me was the Getting Down to Business program. That is essentially what took it for me from being something that I was not really thinking too far into the future about, just sort of going, well, this is working for now and I'm enjoying it. But Getting Down to Business was what shifted it for me into learning how to look forward to the future of it as a business and to start understanding the business skills alongside my design skills. So that was a huge milestone for me, and I really echo what Harry was saying, that if I hadn't have had the opportunity to be part of that program, I don't know that I would have been able to pursue my own business. I just don't think that the network that it opened up for me of support and knowledge and experience was just, I can't put a price on it. It was invaluable. And, to still be in touch with Linda and Frank and the extended community today is a real treasure for me. So that was an important milestone. And then I think after that, it was a case of probably moving from working from home to working in a co-working space. That made a huge difference for me, again, in terms of a network of like-minded people and a sense of legitimacy as well. I think there's only sometimes so much legitimacy you can feel as a business owner, sort of working from the kitchen table, so to speak. And so being able to have a space that I was working from with other professionals instilled my confidence in the work as well. So that, and along with some other mentoring and that I've been able to tap into, have made a huge difference, I think, in milestones to getting me to where I am now.
Fantastic. Thanks, Louise. I love those milestones, and community does become a really important part. Sometimes being an entrepreneur is a lonely place. I know that myself, having been one for 10 years as well. So, Louise, I might stick with you whilst we're sort of, as that really nice segue into, there's in the past couple of years, I mean, we hear the words incubators, accelerators. There's lots of slang sometimes in the entrepreneur and startup ecosystem. But for simplicity, let's call it an entrepreneur's program.
Sure.
You've touched on it a bit. What would you say are the three sort of key takeaways that you get from doing these entrepreneur programs?
Absolutely. I think, as I said, the community and the network of people is the first thing that come to mind, because the knowledge and the help that come from that network of experienced people, it's second to none. And when you're in a program that is focused on young people in entrepreneurship and business, I think you've also already got that sense of anyone involved in that from a facilitating or mentoring capacity is there to help you learn as much as you can and hopefully help you to avoid some of the mistakes that are avoidable so that you can get moving faster. And that knowledge and support I have just found to be so valuable, and a sense that you're okay wherever you are and wherever you want to go. There's not sort of a level of, I guess, competitiveness or feeling as though you're not quite up to scratch if you don't know something. That's kind of the point, so that you can learn more. And people that I've met through getting down to business, you know, I'm still in touch with and still collaborate with, and that's invaluable. And as you say, Warwick, as well, and as Linda, I know as Linda has said before, you know, it gets lonely at the top sometimes, and I think when you are working for yourself, and the buck stops with you, having other people that understand that. And I think as well the fact that it's probably not the standard thing to have your own business at the age we're at. It's certainly becoming more approachable as tech and different, you know, future of work trends change. But I know I'm one of the only people in my peer group that is in the situation I'm in. Most other people are employed. And so there's only so much you can kind of talk to those people about. Whereas when you've got that community through, you know, something like an entrepreneurship program, like getting down to business, you can kind of cut through the fluff and just talk about what it's like at the moment. And I think that's just so vital, and from a mental health perspective as well, because that, you know, that's key, and especially at the moment, you know, with everything we're going through with COVID. So I think that network is the most important thing for me. Then I think obviously that the skills that you learn from the programs and the particular insights that come through from those facilitators, you know, they're designed to teach you everything that you need to know that you may not know that you need to know. It's all of that, you know, the stuff you hadn't considered yet. And I think just the grassroots application of those skills and learnings through these sorts of programs are invaluable, and the way that it gets tailored to your experience too. It's not sort of generalized information. I know through getting down to business, you know, our roundtables and our mentoring and our homework and exercises, we're able to really focus on what we needed to do as individuals, not sort of a broad brush approach. So I think that's really key. And I think probably the third thing that came out of it for me is a sense of confidence, a sense of that I'm not crazy for wanting to do this, or that it's not a silly idea, or that I'm not alone in the process, and the encouragement and the support and the confidence that comes through, and having a place to come, you know, if something does go wrong, you know, having a place, sort of a soft place to fall. I think those would have been the three things that really stood out for me from the process.
Thanks, Louise. Love it. Yeah, I get that sense of community, right? And just that like-mindedness that we're all doing a same game together. So that's really cool. Felicity, what about you? I mean, you know, you took the big, bold move and said to your hubby, all right, let's just put a stake in the ground and have a crack. I'll manage the business and juggle the kids. I mean, what were your lessons learnt, and what did you take away from doing an entrepreneur program?
Doing the entrepreneur program, I really probably don't have too much more to add to Louise. I mean, she's used all of the words that I've had floating around in my head as well. I mean, the things that you don't know that you don't know, and just having someone else when you're talking about a topic, and you know you've got a Graham that says, "Hang on a minute, Felicity, have you considered this? What do you mean this? What is this?" Oh, okay. So it gives you that support and guidance of going, well, here's another concept that you maybe haven't come across before in your younger years. So here's this concept, and to work through that, you need to look at going to this person for advice, or looking at trying to get these resources on board so that you can combat that unknown territory and get through it. So the other one, and again, as Louise said, the confidence, where you're put in a position and you're thinking, I feel like I should take road A. I'm not 100% sure, like my gut tells me go down road A. But then having someone to support you and back you up and say, yeah, you've got this. This is exactly the road you need to take. Or they go, okay, take road A, but I'm going to challenge you on this. I'm going to get you to think about this as well. You know, you think there's roads A and B, but have you considered there's road C as well? So to give you that confidence that you really have, trusted your gut for good reason, or explored all options that could be on the table that perhaps you hadn't considered beforehand. And again, support network and Warwick, you said it yourself before, being an entrepreneur can be a lonely sort of space at times. Even when I had a business partner from the start where we don't see eye to eye on certain things and you're pushed with these challenges, but then being able to sit down at a round table and go, Jesus, this is doing my head in. I've got this massive challenge. You know that no one at that table is judging you. Chances are, and sure enough, there's 3 other people that go, right, tell me about it. I've got the same thing. And you're feeling that community spirit that you're not alone. So many other people have the same problem. And then you can hash it out together and work out how to deal with this and, push up the next person while they're pushing you up as well.
Great. Thanks, Felicity. And Costa, I mean, you've created your own opportunities. How has an entrepreneur program supported you on your journey?
I'll explain how. So when I applied for Getting Down to Business and I went into it, the idea that I had is, like I said before, I wanted to start a deli, right? And there were some other things around food delivery service and that type of stuff, not to an Uber type of level, not like that, a completely different thing. And through the program, through, like I said, the mentor that I got assigned through, I realized that that's not going to work. That idea that I had, that way of going about it, would cost me a lot of money and time and most certainly fail. But the important thing is I figured out why and how, if that makes sense. So it wasn't just that it would fail, it's why that wouldn't work. So I guess, I remember one of my first meetings with my mentor, he opened up, he said, do you know what a business plan is? I said, I've never heard of it. And he opened basically his business plan up for his business and started explaining to it. And then that's when I went, oh, hold on, I need to take a step back. I need to do a lot more learning before I kind of take that first step. And so through that whole kind of logic, I applied to the career that I pursued. So I guess the advantage is, like was touched on by Felicity just now, is that I can, when I run into a problem at work, or not a problem, but when I need more clarity on how to approach something, I can call up, Tony that has got all that experience, that was a CEO of a very large organization. I can bounce ideas off other people. And one of the really important principles, I guess, that I learned from that is, given the role that, for example, I'm in at the moment, given that it's got quite unique aspects and components to it as opposed to any other role in the organization, and there's only, there's very few people doing it, I realized the importance of, before stepping up to that secondment, for example, to show that I can do it, I need to build a base and a network of people that can support me when I get stuck. Because one of the things that I learned, like I said, through the space, is that there's nothing wrong with asking for help, but at the same time, you don't want to be, well, for example, me personally, I don't want to be pestering people. I don't want to be calling someone up 2 times a day saying, hey, what do I do with this? Hey, what do I do with that? I want to show that initiative and show that I can do it. And I know what to ask for help for and what not to ask for help for, in a sense, what to just have a go at. So that was, I guess, working out those kind of things. So applying that principle, what I did is I basically built a network with people within the organisation and also at other councils. And, with members in Victoria Police, for example, detectives in Victoria Police, that our work might be different in a sense of what we look into and what we do. But when it comes, for example, to things like prosecutions, to things like investigations, to things like a search warrant that a magistrate needs to approve, it's relatively similar. It's relatively along one path. So what I realized is I need to branch out and make those connections with other people in the industry to have that support. So when I finally do step into the role, which I did, I don't have to turn around to my manager or turn around to my coworker all the time and ask them questions that they perhaps might not have the most amount of knowledge when it comes specifically to that. So I guess that was one of my big kind of takeaways, taking that step back and kind of going, okay, how do I set myself up? And being able to, I guess, not predict, but be able to assess a bit better before doing something, is it going to work? Because after I had that second meeting, like I said, with my mentor, Tony, and we were talking through it, I started realizing that like I said before, how likely it is and why that I would fail in the idea that I wanted to pursue. So I guess that was one of the kind of main takeaways, that the planning and the support that you need to build up before doing something is so valuable. And how to build that network up, how to build that support in whatever field or whatever it is that you're pursuing, that skill I think is transferable, but it's also not something that I was born with, that's for sure. It's something that I did learn through the program and through the people that I met.